Paint Your Office is the 6th episode of the 6th season of Cheers. This is, of course, directed by the wonderful James Burrows, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And it starts off with Carla being in a really good mood, and then we have the guys talking about what it must be like to be pregnant. It's not the most interesting start, but I didn't mind it too much. And we then, after the intro, Rebecca finds Sam's massage oil between the cushions in her office. And what I love about this is that it really helps to show that even though it's technically not Sam's office anymore, there are still bits and pieces of Sam there, which I really like. Although that might not be the case once we're done with this episode, because it's basically getting a renovation. And Norm then comes in, and we have a Normism that I rather loved. Woody says, "What's going on, Mr. Peterson?" And Norm replies, "Let's talk about what's going in, Mr. Peterson." And it's funny, but there was just something really funny about Norm referring to himself as Mr. Peterson. I just absolutely loved it. And we find out that he's job hunting, and he gets his beer, and Rebecca puts her hand over the beer. Norm's expression, absolutely fabulous. And she tells him she's cutting him off. And it turns out he owes Cheers $837, which is definitely quite a lot of money. And Sam suggests that maybe Norm could do something to work it off. Norm laughs at this, but then he does begin to consider this, because let's face it, there's not much Norm wouldn't do for beer. And Norm says that he did some house painting in college, and Rebecca says, "Okay, you can paint the office." And Cliff didn't have the best attitude here, because he says that it's manual work, it's beneath him, and if Norm became a painter, they'd have nothing to talk about. And as soon as Cliff said that, Norm agreed to do the office painting, which was definitely very entertaining. And then we cut to Norm painting, and the office is basically empty. We have nothing on the shelves. It's very bare. And unfortunately, it is like we are painting away the office that was Sam's, which is not the greatest to think about, but it is a really great episode. There was also apparently a phone call from Evan Drake. He is on his way, and Rebecca takes a phone call, so Norm goes out of the office. Woody is unknowingly tormenting Norm with the beer, and then Norm goes back into the office, and unexpectedly, Rebecca throws her arms around Norm. And we do get, every now and then over the last 6 episodes, we get little glimmers of Rebecca letting her guard down, because she comes across as really cold. This is something she discusses in this episode. But every now and then, we get a chance to see the real Rebecca beneath her icier exterior, and this episode is no exception. It turns out Mr. Drake wasn't happy with her performance, and then she gets her hair stuck to the freshly painted walls. So not a great day for Rebecca. And Norm is about to leave, but Rebecca asks him to stay. And very quickly she recomposes herself and says that it's because the office is a real convenience like this. But it's clear that she's in a time of need. She's going through something emotionally, and she needs a friend. And that friend just so happens to be Norm. I think it's very clear that Rebecca doesn't have anybody in her life that she's really close to. And maybe Norm can be the first person there. We learn also that Norm really enjoys painting, as he points out. It's very different to accounting, and he seems to generally be good at it until he painted the door, which was a little bit awkward. And he tells Rebecca a story, and it makes her laugh. And as Rebecca points out, it's the first time she's laughed since she's been at Cheers. And there we have another layer peeling back. And we're slowly starting to dig a little bit deeper under the surface of who Rebecca really is. And she asks Norm, "Do you find me cold?" And he makes some comedy out of it, but basically does say, "Yes, you are cold and not approachable." And they end up declaring that they like each other, they're friends, and it's going to be their secret. Finally, we have one person getting close to Rebecca. We still have 5 other key members of Cheers to get close to Rebecca, but we are taking a step in the right direction. And things are definitely going well for Norm, because we cut to the next scene and he asks Sam for a coffee, and Rebecca tells him to get Norm a beer on the house. And Norm explains to Sam that maybe all Rebecca needs is just some compassion. And Sam is determined to see this nicer side of Rebecca. So he asks Norm if he can go to Rebecca's house with him, because Norm is actually going over to do some painting and things for her. And Norm, probably against his better judgment, agrees. And then we get to see Rebecca's apartment, which is a nice space. I think they did a good job with the design of it. And it's not very brightly coloured. It's not very messy. It is very neat. And I feel like it's exactly what one could have expected from Rebecca's apartment. And Sam and Norm arrive in their overalls, and they're starting to do some work. Sam's not exactly enthusiastic about the job that needs to be done, but much to Norm's credit, he is taking it very professionally. Unfortunately, Vera calls and Norm has to leave because their basement is flooded. It never fails to amuse me how everybody in Cheers just always seems to have the right phone number at the right time. Usually that's the number at Cheers, but now apparently Norm had Rebecca's home number to then give that to Vera. It's unrealistic, but the more it happens, the more I find it amusing. Of course, Norm has to leave to deal with this flooding, and Sam and Rebecca are alone. And Sam confesses he was there because he wants to learn more about her, and Rebecca says, "What do you want to know?" And she basically divulges everything to him. Initially, nothing emotional, but the facts: who her parents are, what her siblings do, and Sam and Rebecca actually have their first bonding moment, as they both have perfect siblings. I think we already know that Sam's brother is perfect. I am putting that in air quotes. I'm pretty sure that episode aired before this one. I've just checked. Yes, Derek showed up way back in season 1, and they have a little bonding because this is a shared emotion that they have with feeling potentially inferior to their siblings. Unfortunately, Sam kind of took Rebecca's brief letting of her guard down in the wrong way, because Rebecca says that she needs to go and change, and Sam immediately assumes that means things are going to get intimate between them, and he takes off his coveralls. He has a suit on underneath, and he pulls out alcohol, which is weird because it's Sam and he doesn't drink, but he brings out, I assume, champagne from what we assumed as a viewer was a paint bucket, but it's not. It was champagne on ice, or some kind of alcohol on ice, and he's ready for an intimate evening with Rebecca. And then Rebecca comes out saying that she's going to be at the gym for a few hours, and then she realizes Sam's ulterior motive, and it was a little bit awkward. And it's also really the first time we see Sam making a proper effort to be intimate with another woman since Diane, and I'm still not used to it. When I see this, I'm thinking, but what would Diane say? How would Diane feel about this? Why are you cheating on Diane? It's taking a bit of time to get used to. Even though I've seen the show before, I knew it was coming. I was prepared for it. Well, I wasn't prepared for it, but I knew it was happening. And it's still difficult. It's difficult, but nevertheless, it's a really enjoyable episode. I thought Paint Your Office was obviously fabulous. Really great moments with Norm. And as I said, it's just really nice to dig a little bit deeper beneath the surface of Rebecca as well. Brilliant episode. Paint Your Office is pretty fabulous.